In the pages of Superman Lost #1 over from DC Comics, we saw Clark Kent, also known as Superman, go on a routine mission for the Justice League. But things got a little bit hairy, and Superman ended up needing to collapse a singularity. At this point, Superman started losing time, and when he arrived back on Earth in the issue, he was shocked to find that nearly 20 years have passed. In the subsequent issues of Superman Lost, it's finally time to figure out what happened during that lost time over in Clark Kent's life. My name is Arako Braddock, and today let's go ahead and jump into the pages of Superman Lost issue #2. But before we dive deeper into the video, I want to go ahead and encourage you to consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that like button if you enjoy our content. And I want to go ahead and introduce Superman Lost #2 by reading DC Comics' solicitation text for the issue. As Superman struggles to re-enter his life on Earth, we begin the story of his epic 20-year journey home with an encounter with spacefaring scavengers who transport the Man of Steel to an unnamed, earth-like planet whose properties redefine the limits of his powers, while the world's ecological and political turmoil beckons for his help. I want to introduce our creative team on Superman Lost 2. This issue is written and plotted over from Christopher Priest. We have pencils in a plot from Carlo Pagulayan, inks from Jason Paz, colors from Jeromy Cox, and letters over from Willie Schubert. And I want to go ahead and introduce the cover over to Superman Lost #2. This is from Carlo Pagulayan, Jason Paz, and Elmer Santos. Here's a look over at Superman Lost #2. Really like how DC is kind of including that emphasis on the logo design over for Superman Lost and kind of, introducing this costume over for Clark Kent Superman as well. Really liking these covers and how they have that kind of, blue theme over in the background. I want to give a big thanks over to Adventures in Poor Taste for posting these previews of these comic books just so incredibly fast. Let's go ahead and break down some of the artwork in the issue coming over from Carlo Pagulayan with inks from Jason Paz and colors from Jeromy Cox. So I was really impressed last issue with how Carlo Pagulayan was able to depict motion in the page in an issue that really called for a sense of tension between Loislane and Superman. I really thought that Pagulayan was able to capture so much kind of subtext and emotion over from Christopher Priest's script. And I really do feel like this issue does a great job kind of following up on some of those moments. In the first couple pages of the issue, we're kind of treated to, the present day of Superman's life as he's still trying to kind of adapt to some of his surroundings after being gone for such a long time. And I think the way that Pagulayan and Priest work together to kind of, render emotions on the page is just absolutely wonderful. This is a great example as kind of the majority of the page is one panel featuring Clark Kent, Superman sort of laying down. And then we get a couple of panels of him kind of, remembering something and still feeling that dejected sense of, not being comfortable with where he's currently located in. So I really do think the way that Carlo Pagulayan sort of draws motion across these pages is just wonderful. I love the way that Superman is kind of so defeated in some of these panels, and we have, Lois kind of coming to his aid. I think this is a really vulnerable moment for both Clark and Lois in some of these pages as they're just trying to, make sure that Superman is in an emotionally sound state. Elsewhere in the issue, we were really focused in this chapter on exploring some of the alien environments over for Superman. I really enjoyed how Christopher Priest and Carlo Pagulayan introduced some of these alien characters as sort of scavengers. There's actually numerous alien species kind of utilized in this chapter, and the way that Christopher Priest sort of writes the dialogue over for some of these characters is just funny and frank, sobering and honest. These characters also go back and reminisce over how Superman sort of got to this situation and ended up on their ship in the first place. And these sort of exchanges with these aliens kind of, chewing on the scenery and introducing some jokes over at Superman's expense is just a captivating way for Christopher Priest to write a kind of main Superman story. And a little bit later in the issue, we get Superman sort of returning to a different planet outside of the one that we were talking about just now, where he meets a really mysterious and fascinating character called Victor. And the kind of relationship and dialogue sequences that he has with Victor is just so sort of foreboding, just like some of these other alien characters, but just shows that no matter where Clark seems to end up in this story, there's always some really interesting kind of dialogue exchange between him and some of the other characters. And, if Christopher Priest and Carlo Pagulayan can keep like inserting, really kind of fascinating ways for characters to kind of emote off of each other and to keep this really complex and nuanced, scripting vibe and kind of also with the dialogue as well, I think Superman Lost could be a really great series moving forward. This is actually a maxi series, so there's plenty of time left in the issue to kind of, discover new avenues. The next tale or the next issue of the series is exploring some sea concepts and is going even deeper into some other planets over in the DC universe. So I was really happy with Superman Lost. I'm continue to be impressed with the way that Carlo Pagulayan and Christopher Priest can capture so much subtext and how they can really kind of render emotions for different characters. I love the fact that in Christopher Priest's scripts, he's never afraid to kind of go for the joke and tell some really sobering moment or line of dialogue that can really kind of check a character. One thing that I really loved about this particular issue that I didn't get to mention yet is how it took some of the kind of political intrigue over from the first pages of the last issue and reintroduced it with some dialogue between Bruce Wayne and Lois Lane. I really think that this issue is, scripted with a great lens and focus across all these different characters. I love sort of the non-linear storytelling we get here as well, as this tale is sort of being told after Superman's missing time and is telling the story of what happened during Superman's missing time as well. I think this is a really complicated and fascinating way to tell a Superman story that'll hopefully have some impact, for other comic book readers going forward. So I want to know from you, what are some of your thoughts over on Superman Lost #2? Did you like some of the alien characters featured in this issue? And what were your thoughts on the Victor? Well, thank you guys so much for coming to check out the video. And we'll be back really soon for more excellent comic book content. Thanks so much, and I'll see you soon. Bye.